Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Lo and Zo Show. But the interesting thing about today's episode is that there's no Lo, but in fact, I'm going to be introducing you to Lo's quantum man, Lo's partner, Eric. And this is actually the first time that I'm getting to meet Eric. We were on Zoom chatting a little bit beforehand, but this is going to be super special because I known Lo for how many years now? Like 8, 9 years maybe. And she's always talked to me about her quantum man and likewise myself. And the fact that I'm sitting here with you right now, Eric, it's just so, so cool. It's like, a dream being made manifest. And I know that you two have such a beautiful and sacred and special relationship. And I'm just so grateful to witness that unfolding in Lo's life and to finally meet you today. So thank you for sitting down with me and being open to this experience, this interview as I get to know you and you get to know our audience and introduce yourself in this way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of actually surreal to be doing this with you because since I met Lo, I've watched and seen your guys' work, and it just feels. I mean, Quantum Man is a big title to live up
Yeah.
to, but it's one that I love doing, and it feels good. It feels good to be called that. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Very stoked. Very excited.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel good being called that. Yeah, I hope that's okay. It's just like this
Totally.
frame, but it's Quantum Man, it sounds like a superhero in ways. And I know that you
That's right up my alley. Yeah, that's
yeah,
up my alley. I'm fine with that.
right up your alley. And we'll get into that. Before we get into this interview with Eric today, I just wanted to let you all know, all of those of you listening, that Lo and I have a special promotion going on for the Quantum Creators course right now, which is 50% off with the code Quantum. So if the Quantum Creators course has been in your field, if you're ready to manifest your quantum man, then the time is now. And there'll be a link for that down below. So that's code Quantum at checkout, and you guys can get 50% off. And there's just incredible. There's like over 40 hours of bonus content, Q&As. You have access to all future live rounds. There's such an incredible community. We've had hundreds of people through the course. And if you're feeling the call, this is your invitation. And without further ado, let's dive right in. Eric, I would love it if you could take some time to introduce yourself to us today.
Sure, yeah. So, like I said, it's really awesome to be here. My name is Eric, and I am Lowe's Quantum Man. That is the title. I'm going with it. I'm rolling with it. Yeah, I've been following you guys ever since I met Lowe, and since I met you as well. And I am what I do for a living is I'm a personal trainer. I have my own personal training business, and I am a personal trainer that specializes just in first responders, which is actually funny because a big part of that is they are our everyday heroes, our real life superheroes. So the work that I do with them and the work that I do with myself and now this whole quantum man thing, it's this whole sphere of like heroicness, and I'm liking it. I'm here for it. So but
Yes.
that's what I do. That's my career. That's what I focus on. As a segue, I guess I'm going to say that was probably the one thing that Lo and I connected off on right off the bat, which is the fact that we were both entrepreneurs. That was like the huge starting point in our first conversation. So that's what I'll start with in terms of my intro.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I love the theme of heroicness and also entrepreneurial like spirit. That's so so powerful. And I think like being an entrepreneur, as you know yourself, like there's always going to be pivots and being open to change and growth and evolution in such a way. And I mean, I know for myself on the entrepreneurial journey, it's been such a beautiful journey of just like getting to know myself on deeper levels and being able to hold myself and take care of myself. And I feel like eventually that leads to finding another person in this life who can match that energetic frequency, who also knows how to hold themselves and carry themselves. And from what I've learned about your and Lo's relationship is that you both are incredibly communicative and like listen to each other on deep levels. And I feel like Yeah, or I guess if I have a question here, it's like, how has your journey as an entrepreneur supported you in being where you are at now, able to have such a conscious, beautiful relationship in your life?
That's a good question. Actually, I was going to go into that as you were just speaking. So you totally we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah.
I was going to say that being an entrepreneur is it's basically you're driving down a road and it's constant course corrections, right? That's essentially what it
Mm-hmm.
is. But when you are making those course corrections and you're making those adjustments, there is a ton of character building in that. And there's a lot of ways in life in which you can build your character, but something about that entrepreneurial path that requires you to look inward, do the hard decisions, you know, think outside of the box. All of those things that I've learned, all of the character building I've done through that can be directly correlated to having relationships. Because as an entrepreneur, that's what you do. You build relationships. When you think about it at the baseline, it's really no different whether it's a romantic relationship or a business relationship or a friendship relationship. They all have the same baseline of you have to be able to look inside yourself and do self-analysis and then be able to communicate. So all the time that I've spent being an entrepreneur and making decisions and reflecting, it is directly correlated to, okay, here's the type of relationship that I want in business, and I want it to be this bountiful and this beautiful. The rules still apply to if you're dating somebody. So it's really just about the character building. That would be my answer.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Eric. And um, it just reminds me of how everybody's journey is so unique, but through your journey, through all of those course corrections, you'll always be getting exactly what you need to get to the place that is ultimately meant for you. And that allows miracles to unfold, that allows the right connections, the people, place, and timing to come into place. So, I mean, that being said, how did you meet Lo? I mean, I kind of know a little bits of this story, but I'd love to hear it from you, and I'd love if you feel comfortable to share it here today with the audience, with our community.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And the thing that I want to say first before I get into the story is that I think any outcome that you end up in life and where you end up, a lot of times people will sort of chalk it up to say one thing or one instance or one decision they made. But I never think that that's the truth. I mean, I feel like everything in life is an equation. So it's little pieces of everything, decisions you made, the right timing, you know, things that have happened to you, lessons you've learned, they all sort of accumulate into one equation that, shows you where you've ended up. But with that said, so I met Lo. It's funny, I never call her Lo, but now that we're on the show, it's like now I'm calling her because
Yeah.
you're calling her. So Lauren, so I met her online. I met her on Hinge, and online dating was I had never been into it, never got into it. And I don't want to sit here and say that I was like a stickler for it and I was too good for it or whatever. But I'm a very old school man. I'm a classical man, and I preferred to always meet people in person, one on one. You're in the same room as them, you get the vibe. And then I think like a lot of other people, COVID happened because it happened to everybody, and I think everyone went through this chapter where we were really just longing for connection, right? So many of us were isolated. We didn't have anybody to go out and see or anything to do. Um, and so, I hopped on there. But before I actually hopped on Hinge, I had done a lot. I'd say I did almost a year's worth of solid self work where I didn't do any dating, didn't speak to anybody in a romantic sense, nothing like that. For more or less, I had been through the ringer a few times of rough relationships and bad choices and things like that. And I knew that if I was going to do something again, especially at my age, being mid 30s and wanting something different in life, you got to start with yourself. So I did a lot of self reflection, did a lot of work, journaling, lots of reading, hours and hours in the library, just chilling out, reading self help books, things like that. And it was amazing. It was fantastic. Lo has probably told you once or twice that I spend time in the library. It's like my favorite place. So yeah, I said, if I'm going to jump on, I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right place to do so. And I was. So I hopped on, and I promise this story gets much more exciting and entertaining. I promise. Um,
It's already very
so I hopped
entertaining,
on.
Eric. I'm like sitting here,
Oh, okay,
like,
okay,
there's a big
all right.
smile on my
If
face. I'm so happy. Yeah.
if anything, I don't want to be like, I don't know how many men you've had on your podcast, but I don't want to be like the one boring guy where it's like, okay, let's just speed this up. Let's hit the advanced 30-second button. I don't want to be that guy.
No.
Um, so it's actually funny because I was on there for a little while. I met some people, went out for a few coffee dates, something like that. And it's so funny because it's almost like a slight, like, missed my chance type of story. The office that I'm in right now, I was laying on the floor on my yoga mat. I had just done yoga, but it was like 2 a.m. And I was just like thinking, I don't even know why I'm on this app. This is just kind of a waste of time or whatever. And I'm swiping, but as I'm swiping and checking things out, my eyes are getting real heavy and I'm getting real tired because it's like 2 a.m. And I come across Lauren's profile and I'm looking and I'm just like, oh, these answers are so straight up. She likes passion and entrepreneurship. She wants someone who just is passionate about something, enthusiasm. And she has some videos up, and I think there might have been a photo of you guys or a small clip of you. I'm not sure. I think there was, though, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm looking, and then all of a sudden time goes by and I wake up and I realize that I had fallen asleep looking at her profile and my phone like fell on my face. It did that thing where, your phone falls on your face and you jolt yourself awake. But I was, funny enough, on Hinge, you can give like digital roses if you like really like somebody. So I was going to give her the rose. And then when I woke up really realizing my phone had fallen on my face, I was like mortified because I was like, oh my God, did I miss it? Like, what if it fell on my face and it went reject? And I was like, oh my God, no. So like I turned on my phone right away and it was still just on the screen of her profile. And I was like, okay, let's not make this happen again. So I just hit the rose thing and then put the phone down and fell back asleep. And I was like, let's see what happens in the morning. And then in the morning, I had a connection and I was like, oh, here, the stars aligned. My face didn't swipe left or whatever it is. So that's how I originally got my notification out to her. That's the story.
Wow. I love this for so many reasons, just because, like, you know, the universe is always aligning things. You can't make a mistake. What's meant for you can't miss you. And it's like, you
Right.
very well could have fallen asleep, it could have fallen on your face the wrong way, but it's like, no, the universe like knew to align this in its divine orchestration. And that's what
My first
led
thought
you to.
when I woke up, sorry, my first thought when I woke up was you didn't even get the last name on Hinge. So I'm like, how am I going to find this person in case I like reject it or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So I was like super stoked when I saw it was still there. And little did I know, a year and a bit later, I'm sitting with her best friend on a podcast. So it all worked out.
It all worked out. And it's like straight out of a movie. I can just imagine like this scene of like you're doing yoga. It's like 2 a.m. You're like, what am I doing on this app? And then, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
is someone really amazing. And then it falls on your face. Oh my gosh, I gotta send the rose. And here we are now. I love it. I love this.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, so divine. So you guys connected and you were chatting. And I know um, I like, did you come down to Toronto to meet Lo at first, or how did the first date happen?
So I think it was about, I think we had been talking for, I'm going to say like 2 weeks. I think it was two
Hmm.
weeks just texting. I think after like a week and a half, or no, I think it was after the 2 week mark, we left Hinge and just started texting normally. And then I accidentally deleted our connection on Hinge, which was a whole long running joke that still haunts me, but that's fine. We can talk about that later. Uh, um, and I think it was, yeah, like a week and a half to 2 weeks before I said, hey, like, do you want to have a phone call? Because these are great conversations, but there is, there's a definite energy that you don't get obviously just through text. You can't understand someone's inflections or their mood or whatever. You need to hear their voice and you got to hear their reactions to things and stuff, right? So I definitely wanted to hop on a call. And our first conversation, I think we chatted for like an hour and 47 minutes or something like that, which was well beyond anybody else that I had had a conversation with on the app. Um, and I totally lost track of time when we were talking, which was fantastic. And it was just such instant, like, natural conversation. Like, I don't even want to just use the word chemistry, but just natural, sort of like non-nerve wracking conversation, which was really great. And then a little bit more time went by, and I had had some work that I was scheduled to do down in Toronto. It was like on a Thursday, and it was fitness related. I was going down to do some like ergonomic work and stuff like that. And I just said, hey, I'm in town. I have this thing. I'm doing this fitness stuff. Once I'm done, do you want to meet for lunch or like an evening, like early evening sort of lunch dinner thing? And then she said yes. She said, oh yeah, fantastic, absolutely. And the original idea was to go to like a Copper Branch, but it was like in the underground food court, and it's like, who wants to meet in an underground food court that's like dark? It's like the Bat Cave. Like, why do you don't want to have your first date there? So we ended up switching it to something else, and that was it. It was a fantastic, comfortable first. I say comfortable because the conversation was good, but like internally, you're like shaking and stuff. So, but it was good. That's it. It was as simple as just meeting for lunch after work in Toronto.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with
Of
me, Eric,
course.
and like all of us. I just think it's it's so special to hear like the unfolding from your side from like Hinge and then coming to that first date and like for the first phone conversation, because obviously I heard about this from Lo as it was like going down
Yeah.
just over a year ago, but it's just special to hear about the unfolding, the bridge of incidents, I suppose is what we refer to it on the Lo and Zo show from your side.
I
So
listened to that episode. I heard that podcast. I mentioned that to Lauren once. I was like, something happened in the day, and I had mentioned something to her, and I said, bridge of incidents. And then she just responded with something like, you're saying all the right words, Critch, or something like that. So,
I love it. I love it. Yeah, the bridge of incidents is yeah, our terminology. I love that resonated with you or that it clicked for you in ways. So you've listened to the Lo and Zo show, have you, Eric?
yeah, actually, as I'm going to say, as soon as I possibly could, once we started finding each other like on Instagram and stuff, which
Hmm.
apparently she was doing a lot more of the hunting before I was to find the Instagrams and the all the socials and stuff. But
Yeah.
once I found, once I had her Instagram and I saw the Lo and Zo show and I saw that she had a podcast, um, to me, even going outside of Lo, seeing people work so hard and seeing people's attention to detail and how I'm going to say classy they are with their business, which is what you two ladies are. It just drew me in right away because that's the kind of quality in someone and a lady that I've always appreciated. So your guys' professionalism and just how you presented things drew me in so fast. And because I was interested in Lauren, not just romantically, but what she did as a person, I was like, I'm going to hop right on this and start listening. So it was pretty early on that I started listening to her show and then the both of you together. And even if I wasn't dating Lauren, I still would because my mindset is very similar to you guys, and the way you present your work it's so professional, but it's so wholesome and it's so smart and it's very professional. And I think you ladies do an amazing job for sure.
Oh,
So
thank you, Eric. Well, I'm so happy that you're a guest here today after being a listener in that way. And yeah, I love what you said about just of course, being romantically interested in Lauren, but then also just taking an interest in who she is as a person. And I think that's such a key place to get to, like when it comes to being ready at that time in your life for conscious relationship, conscious partnership, because of course, there's always going to be like romance and lust and things like that, but not letting it be the distractor from like, this is the opportunity to truly get to know another human being who has entered my reality. So I love just like hearing that be expressed through you of like, of course there's romance and connection in that way, but I just wanted to get to know her on this much deeper
right.
level. And I think that comes with maturity of relationships, of just really seeing, our hearts aligned, our values aligned, is our vision for the future aligned, and the way that we move through life aligned. And of course there was that connection with entrepreneurship, but when it comes to values, how do you feel like you navigated that with Lauren, if you feel comfortable sharing of like what your values are and how you got to know that you're aligned in that way?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, that's something that I have actually shared with other people in the past when they've asked me about like my first few instances getting to know Lauren. And one of the things that sort of grasped me right away was in our first phone call conversation. I think we were only like 20 minutes in, maybe not even. And one of the first things that she asked me was, um, what do you really value in life, and what means a lot to you? Tell me something. One of the first questions she asked was, tell me something that really like sort of went astray or went south, and how it made you feel. And, for a 15-minute conversation or into 15 minutes, from someone you met off Hinge, a lot of people might be like, okay, whoa, heaviness. Like, let's talk about our favorite colors first. But for me, I was like, that is exactly what I needed, because her and I, the other thing that we matched on was a sense of skipping the small stuff, right? And small talk is great. I think that was even on her profile, that she didn't really like small talk. She wants to talk about something that's meaningful, and that really can actually bring connection. And that's what she did. She hopped into that like 15 minutes in, and it was received 1,010% by me, because if she hadn't have done it, I would have done that. So it really meant a lot to sort of dive into the real personal questions, but in a respectful way, like really early. Did that answer your question? I feel, or did I?
Yes, no, I love that. Of
Okay.
course. Like, I mean, especially like thinking about what you shared about taking a year to really get to know yourself on that deep level and do a lot of personal work. And I know that Lo has always been on that journey as well. And it's like, you gain the clarity within yourself to be able to communicate in these deeper ways and go, like skip over the small talk and go right towards the depth of what's truly important to you, what's on your heart to share with this person, and learning about how you both have navigated this journey of life, the good times, the bad, the struggles, the triumphs. And you learn a lot from a person by hearing about those stories. So I love that that's where your
Definitely.
conversation went. And like, I mean, of course, Lo took it like, because I know Lo so well. Of course, Lo took it there like so fast. And I love that. And I love how you were fully able to receive that. So special.
Yeah, and you know what? It was in simple terms, it was us both connecting on a really simple thought of, I don't want to waste any time. We were both in the
Mm-hmm.
position where it's like, let's not waste time. We both don't want to play any games. And the thing is, it's like it's not just as simple as, oh, I happened to meet someone that felt the same in that regard. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's an equation of things. Yes, the timing was right. I met Lauren, who is somebody who also felt the same way about that. But I wouldn't have been in that mindset to do that if I hadn't spent the year, or so, reflecting, getting to know myself, doing the self work, making the decisions that I made to even try, the app, making the decision to do 2 a.m. yoga on my floor, like all those things added together, right, to make it. So it's not just as simple as chance and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I ran into Lauren who felt that way. I had to be ready for that. I had to be ready for someone to just 15 minutes in say, tell me this big thing, answer it, go. If it had been a year ago, I might not have been ready for that. So it's a little bit of a bunch of pieces.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. And I feel like where I want to go next with this is what did you do? How did your life change? What were your practices or your tools that you started to incorporate into your life in this year, let's say, of getting to know yourself on a deeper level? And I mean, I love how you mentioned yoga and yoga at like 2 a.m. because that's like, connecting with the body in a deeper way. But what do you feel like really supported you in nurturing and creating this space of openness for relationship by getting to know yourself on a much deeper level?
I'm going to say, and this might be a cliche answer, but for me, a lot of it actually was the journaling that I did.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just journaling thoughts. It was, anytime that I read any sort of self help book or any sort of philosophy based book or anything like that, or even after I did yoga, a lot of the things that I would write down, were more or less conversations that I was having with myself.
Hmm.
Almost like doing, instead of a verbal mind dump, I was doing it into a book. I would write down, here's what I did today. And then I'd write down a question like, well, Eric, why did you do that? Why did you think that? Why did you say that out loud? And then I would answer myself in the book, right? It's like I was literally having a conversation with myself. And, self-talk or self-conversation can lead you to a lot of places, for good or bad. They just happen to lead me to the good because I was, you know, funneling in with all of the good things I could find. Um, it just really helped me sift through, a lot of the junk, if you will. So doing a lot of journaling that was conversation with myself, And then as hard as it was during that time too, physically taking care of myself. I did probably more yoga in that 1 year of, self rehabilitation, if you will, or self learning. And I've been doing yoga for years because I absolutely love it. But I probably did more then than I did any other year just because it's great for putting yourself in tune, right? In check. You can focus and physically too, right? The more physically relaxed you feel, that does translate up into your nervous system and into your brain, which is going to make you more relaxed so you can think better thoughts clearly, right? So it was a combination of those things, but yeah, a lot of the self conversations in the journal was probably the number one thing. Like I wrote open letters to people
Hmm.
but didn't send them, obviously, right? I did a lot of that. And you've probably heard people like Jay Shetty and, people talk about things like that. I did a lot of that and that helped a ton. Writing letters, but not sending them and then sifting through
Hmm.
them yourselves.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Eric. And I mean, I love journaling as a tool. It's something I personally do every single day. I have done it for years and years and years. It's so simple and so profound and so powerful, especially when you just let yourself stream of consciousness, right? Like it sounds like you did, or like tend to your own needs. If I feel like I need to express something to someone, even though I don't need to like send this or like have a conversation, I can provide myself with that type of closure or that type of expression of, getting this emotion or getting these feelings or these narratives out of my body, out of my being, and then creating such a beautiful sanctuary within your own being, like one of love, of unconditional love, so you can actually hold space for love in your life, and in
Absolutely.
that same way be attracting someone who is doing that work as well with inside of themselves. Just like, I mean, I know, like, of course, Lo, of course, Lo is always like doing that work, but it's like I see it. I love learning about your side of things and like the journey that led up to meeting Lo and being with Lo, because it's like, yeah, like that is the work. It's truly getting to know yourself and cleaning and clearing out, I mean, the clutter, for lack of a better term, because I love like minimalism terms, but it's like cleaning.
Yeah,
You're being out of anything that's not in alignment with unconditional love.
absolutely. And what you were just saying there too is there's one little other aspect that I think was slightly different coming from my side, and which I think you'll probably not relate to this, but I think you'll understand too with the work that you do, is that when you see a lot of this self work and a lot of this reflection and things like journaling and quote unquote healing, um, I think even in this day and age, it's still a little bit different when you do these things and openly talk about them, say as a man, right? Unfortunately, the world still puts like, here's how ladies do self help or reflection, and here's how a man does it, and here's how much they talk about it versus here's how much they talk about it. And at the end of the day, that shouldn't matter at all. Like, gender has
Yeah.
nothing to do with healing and self growth. It's just all work, and everybody should be able to do it. But for some reason, there's still a little bit of like, that stigma out there like, oh, what are you doing, bro? You can't come out and do this one thing because you're writing in your book. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I can't come out, bro, because I'm writing in my book. Like, but
Hmm.
there's still that little bit. So again, it shouldn't be any different, but there's that little bit of a different angle that I'm just pointing out because I'm not sure how many gentlemen listen to your podcast or how many, men have been on the podcast. But just for even the ladies who visit your podcast to hear that, like, there are men out there that think and feel exactly the same as you do in terms of self-healing and whatnot. And it's really not different from gender to gender. It's just the world still has a funny way of looking at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to, yeah, just like breathe into that space that is releasing the stigma, because it is so important. Like, and I think, like, for me personally, I look for those qualities or just awareness in another, especially like in the masculine, because it's like I want to know that they have a practice that is inwards facing, that is introspective in nature. And we notice it, we actually like as women too, we want to hear those things. It's actually like for any men listening, it's actually very attractive. It's actually very magnetic to us. And yeah, it is what we look for because we want to know that you are in tune with yourself, because that to me implies that you have the capacity to have conscious communication with another because you're aware of your feelings, your emotions, you have an understanding of them. It's not something that you're suppressing or bypassing in nature. You're checking in with yourself on that level and tending to your
Absolutely.
needs.
And like awareness is like, that is the number one key word too. And again, more often than not, what you see is men who are trying to do this work, their self-help or their, you know, again, I'll say rehabilitation is like just going to the gym and slamming weights, which is amazing because obviously that's awesome. And, you know, or going to things like martial arts, which obviously that's what I do too. But those are those are external outlets for healing, right? You also have to have internal outlets or soft outlets, and things like yoga and journaling and, you know, meditative practices. Those are softer outlets. And again, like I said, I still feel like the majority of men don't focus on that stuff as much as they should, and they should. And someone like yourself or ladies who really focus on those soft skills are going to notice it, like you said, right? Because that energy is strong, and when you're in that space and you're in that self growth space, that energy gets put out there, and people like yourself will feel, wow, this guy really takes care of himself. Or, you know, I see him on his Instagram, or when I talk to him, he's at the gym, but the next thing he tells me that he's at the library journaling, and that gives off an energy. You can't see it, but you can definitely feel it, right? So again, I think it's just most human beings, men and women, need to pay attention to the soft and the hard skills of like self-reflection, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I love how you just simplified that. I'm thinking in it like my brain is spinning, my mind is spinning, and like it is so important. And I love that now we have this terminology to it to add to the Lo and Zo show. Those hard
Yeah,
skills, those
there you
soft
go.
skills.
It's all yours.
Yeah. If
Part of
we
that actually comes from like my years in, because I've been doing martial arts since I was 6, right? And
Mhm.
it's funny how nowadays, yes, things are getting a little bit better in terms of like, oh, here's how a man should be and here's how a woman should be, and, you know, oh, a man shouldn't show the soft side. But for hundreds of thousands of years, you know, martial artists always taught that, you know, the most powerful man or the most powerful woman are the ones who look inward and who have these abilities to do really strong external stuff, but they stay soft. They look inward. They do reflection. They meditate. So that's been around for thousands of years. And I don't know why on this side of the world it still seems so foreign, you know? But yeah, feel free, steal the terminology, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm like maybe one day Lo and I will publish a little like a dictionary of the Lo and Zo show. There'll be Bridge of Incidents, there'll be hard skills, soft skills, the quantum man
Nice.
definition.
Nice. Just like a
Yeah.
little tiny fine print of like my name at the very
Yeah.
bottom corner. Oh, that's fine. I'm good with that. That's okay.
Yeah. Of course, it'll be like quantum man definition, Eric, and then to be announced for me. Well, to be
Right.
decided, determined. But yeah,
Trust me,
anyways.
I have no doubt that you know, in terms of the quantum man, with what you do and how you do it, and you know what Lo has told me about you just in the year that I've met her, there is, I feel like every time her and I talk about you,
Yeah.
which is obviously every day we talk about you all the time. I feel like there's nothing like on the horizon. There is nothing but good things coming for you, because it just, with the way you put yourself out there, I don't think that there's anything but good coming for you in the next little while. Now, of course, there's
Oh.
always little speed bumps, but something, just like I said to Lauren the other day, something really big I feel like is coming for all of us in our little bubble and circle, and it's coming soon.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for saying that, Eric. And I'm excited. I plant these little quantum seeds all the time, and I was like, next summer, Lo, we're gonna be in Spain. You and Eric are gonna be there. Me and my quantum man are gonna be together, and we'll just be like sitting on a balcony, enjoying dinner, watching the sunset over the ocean. And I'm like, these are my quantum seeds that I just planted. So thank you. I'm
That's
sure
it.
that we'll all get along great. And
Absolutely. Well, see, I just planted one now with you just by saying that, so we're on the right track.
yeah, totally. And Yeah, I also have this feeling intuitively and just in my entire being, like big things are quantum leaps are upon us. Quantum leaps are in there unfolding right now. And yeah, thanks for sharing that too, because I feel that energy. I feel like something big is happening and I do feel good, exciting things for yeah, our little bubble, our little quantum bubble.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, Eric, what if anything else is on your heart to share with us today?
Well, honestly, the one thing that I have had on my mind is actually a question for you
Oh.
because yeah, one obviously following you on Instagram, I see all of the places that you go and all the things that you put yourself into, the experiences, the people that you spend time with, the meditative practices, and everything, even just your stories about encountering little animals and lizards and stuff. I love it all. But
Yeah.
my question is for you is, when you are in your journey to grow and to learn and experience and really find the things that you're looking for, what is it like when you spend 3 weeks in one place and then you go somewhere else where maybe the culture is completely different and you have to learn something all over again or something new? What does that do like to you for your mentality or even for like your spirit, for like all the things that you could put in your bucket to make you better and happier and wiser and all those things? What's that like, jumping from one place to the next, and like how do you take pieces from each one and sort of add it to your mental repertoire?
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for asking this question, Eric. Because it has been something I've been thinking about a lot more lately because this entire year I've been fully nomadic. I mean, I've always been quite nomadic in nature and traveling whenever I could or living in different places. But there's been a lot of frequent travel, like being in different places, week to week or like every 3 weeks or so. And what I really have been tuning into within myself is quite interesting because I feel like contrary to, let's say, the movement that is in my external reality, is I'm more grounded in myself than I've ever been. And that creates the space for me to be able to open up and welcome in all of the teachings, the learnings, the divine synchronicities, a deeper relationship with God source universe, because I've got me and I'm carrying me through this fast moving reality, I guess. And a lot of that comes with the more I'm very much into my morning routine and my morning practices, and it's extensive. I love to spend like hour, I'll move my body, like do yoga or do Pilates or go for a walk, get my 10,000 steps in, journal. Like I love my morning routine and
Miracle morning.
yeah, it's basically, yeah,
Miracle
miracle.
morning. It literally says that on my calendar block. I have that 1 hour and it says miracle morning. And that's like you either read or you
Yes.
journal or whatever. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's so important. So yeah, the reason why I bring that up is that it truly it is such an anchor. Like we've spoken to some of these practices, but what I feel like is that my ability to actually be open to having these array of experiences and integrating them into my being, into my mind, taking in all the learning, that wouldn't be available to me if I didn't have the capacity to be present with what is, right? Because a lot of
Right.
people might go on holiday, they might work super hard and have like 1 week vacation where they go off to Mexico and maybe they're just like drinking margaritas and stuff like that. But I feel like there's an array of experience and knowledge and wisdom that's unfolding in reality for each and every single one of us in every moment. And especially when you find yourself in a new environment, you're more receptive to the divine in that way. But I wouldn't have the capacity to receive everything that I've received from these travels if it didn't come back to the grounding miracle morning routine. And the way that I sort of intake all of my learnings and experiences is in journaling, like reflecting, wow, I'm so grateful that I met that person when I was out for dinner by myself the other night, or I had this conversation with a local. And even though we were stumbling around the language barriers, we were still communicating because we're all human at the core of it. We're all love. We all have this desire to connect and learn from each other. So yeah, I feel like it very much comes back to those practices, but just creating the space within yourself to welcome in the universe's teachings.
So let me ask you this. If you're comfortable answering, you don't have to
Yeah,
answer it. But
yeah, of course.
with everything you just said and doing that work and things like journaling and all the places that you go and the things that you experience, everything we just talked about, what would you consider yourself? Like, would you say that you are more on the spiritual side? Are you more on the religious side? Are you more on like the, universal quantum side? Or do you just see it as all one bundle? Like, what kind of things have like stuck with you? Or if somebody asked you on like a philosophical sense, what do you lean towards? What would you say?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question, Eric. I mean, we could go so many different directions in this, but I feel like
That's like a
spiritual.
3 hour podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
sorry.
like that's a future episode. Yeah, Eric
Yeah,
and Zoe show round two. But
right.
I feel for me like very much spiritual in nature. I feel like I've just always leaned more into that, and I feel I would say in the last year of my life, I started to develop a much more what I'll call personal relationship with God. And I know God's kind of a word that some people use. Some people do God, source, universe. I used to not use that word so much, but I feel like as I've deepened my relationship with myself, it's like I feel like I have the ability to be within my own heart. And for me, the practice of prayer is intention setting and communicating directly from the heart space with God. And to me, so then I start to use like God more frequently. I didn't go to church when I was younger. I wasn't grown up like in a religious household, but it's like quite interesting how I've sort of met God in my own heart, and I've met God through my travels and through the people. I see God in everything. I see God as just always around us, omnipresent in nature. And I got I got there through I feel like I got there through working in my own body, in my own heart. And I got there through nature as well. Like all these different pathways were just leading me right back to God. But what I'll say about that is like for me it's there's religious teachings that like Christ consciousness and things that and of course in miracles, let's say, um and the teachings on forgiveness that I'm like very much resonating with and I'm drawn to. But I'm open to all the teachings, all the wisdom, because I also love reading books about, yogic traditions and like autobiography of a yogi. There's certain books that have like great depth. There's certain teachings, and I don't want to put myself into one box with it. But that's why I would say spiritual in nature is I follow where I feel led as the universe and reality is unfolding itself in front of me. But in that, I always know, and I know now that I have like a deep relationship, or what I'll call this like personal relationship with God. It just feels much more moment to moment and special and supportive in nature. And that's been the result of the journey inwards into my own heart, into my own being. Hopefully that
That's
answers your
beautiful.
question. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that too. I feel like what you just said there is a perfect example or explanation of what I was going to say next when you mentioned, just the use of the word God. It should not be as
Hmm.
taboo or as tense as everybody might makes it out to be. I think it's just the what people infer, what they interpret or think about right away when someone says the word God. But I've always felt that like, at the end of the day, pretty much what you described is that God is just a term, right? It's a term used. Everybody's definition or connection to quote unquote God, everyone's is different. Every human being's connection to that is different. So it looks different for every person, right? So it really shouldn't be as taboo as people make it out to be because it's like another way of saying your own journey and what you've connected to, right? And so I've never really understood people's defensiveness about that. And I just love hearing you talk about it like that because that's how I would want everybody to sort of speak about it, if you will. And you mentioned another really big word there too, which was forgiveness. And just going back to everything about my relationship with Lauren and all that stuff, I think that forgiveness is like one of the like we're gonna say like golden ingredients
Hmm.
to any kind of self-care or healing or like moving forward because again there's so much character building in that. And when I spent the better part of that year doing things, there were a lot of people that I had to forgive, there were a lot of just situations that didn't really have anything to do with anybody that I had to quote unquote forgive. But there's also a lot of forgiveness that you have to do for yourself. So a lot of things, actions that you take, things you said, choices you made, a lot of the times we're mad at other people
Mm-hmm.
as a result of those actions or those words, but it's really yourself. Like you're the one, you're like, I need to forgive myself for doing this, or I need to tell myself that it's okay that I made this choice or whatever. So that is like a huge ingredient to getting to the point to what you described in terms of like that self-realization and self-care.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Eric. It's a truly forgiveness is such a space maker, right? It creates
So powerful.
space, yeah, for you to love yourself and then for you to have the capacity to love everyone else in your world. And
Right.
it's so
Absolutely.
important. Yeah. And it's not easy to do at times. Like I mean, Lo and I have had some episodes where we've mentioned forgiveness, and I think the simplest way or the way that I found a gateway to forgiving people that I found or forgiving myself, I found resistance around is forgiveness is release of any expectations that you've ever placed upon yourself or another. And it's
Right.
recognizing like what are even subconscious expectations that I put on myself that I would be at a different place in my life than I am now, or I expected this person to show up differently and they did. And it's like taking responsibility to relieve that pressure that you're putting on yourself energetically, release that suffering that the mind is perpetuating through this. And forgiveness is just like it's such a it's such a heart-based frequency, I feel, because every time that I feel that I unlock another level of forgiveness, I just feel like I have the capacity to love even more of this world around me and love what I
It makes
do.
you lighter, right? Makes you feel lighter.
Yes. So
Big time.
lighter. Yeah. Would
And
you
it's
say,
hard to do that.
yeah, would you say like as the masculine, like where do you feel like forgiveness in your being? Is it also heart-based or is it like just an energetic field? How do you feel forgiveness affect you?
To be honest, to me, I feel like I always feel it physically first
Hmm.
because it's very easy for emotions to translate into your physical body. Even just somebody, you can see somebody walking around on the street and their shoulders are up really high, their head is down, and they might not even realize that they're walking like that, but they might be thinking about something that is so mentally draining that they don't realize that they're doing any of this, right? And I always feel it physically whenever I go through something like forgiveness or letting go. But specifically when it comes to physically, I mean sleep wise. When I let things go, when I experience a breakthrough in forgiveness, I always sleep much better, which then translates to less physical tension and stress, right? So yeah, that's where I would feel it first. But then the secondary effect of that is mentally, I obviously feel it because there's less overthinking, right? When you're
Hmm.
contemplating how you're going to get over something or how you're going to forgive someone, it's usually just overthinking. That's all it is. And you just keep going through, catastrophizing circles and circles of how do I do this? How do I get over this? How am I going to forgive this person? And that's exhausting. When you get past that, the mental fog clears a little bit. So it's sort of secular. It's like, the mental fog clears and then you sleep better, but you sleep better because the mental fog is cleared. So it's yeah, that's how it affects me
Hmm.
personally. Whenever I get over that hump, I always find that I'm able to relax and sleep better, which then translates to everything else.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Eric. I love that. I just love hearing about how in tune you are with your own body. And I think that that's such a powerful, um, yeah, just like a powerful thing to share is that it's important to be embodied in what you learn and what you experience and what you are, as you practice forgiveness, like really recognizing how that affects your entire body and being like open, ready, and willing to always provide yourself with that relief, with that love, with that spaciousness. And listening to the body in that way too. Like you mentioned, people walking down the street and being super tense. The body keeps the score. The body holds everything. And it's our
Yeah, I
responsibility
like that.
to recognize the tension, recognize the pain, recognize the suffering that's actually perpetuating more of that, even sponsoring thoughts in our own body and making the moves to release that for ourselves. I'm sure you've got like an array of experience and story times with what you do as a personal trainer, just recognizing and being able to see how the body keeps the score in those ways.
For sure. And can I please steal that term? Because like
Yeah.
the body keeps the score. I want to say that to everybody now. So I'm gonna give you credit once I write a
Oh,
little book of myself.
yeah. It's actually a book. It's actually a book title, Eric. I'll say that there is a book. The body keeps the score, but it's so true, right?
Oh,
Like,
okay, there you go.
yeah, you'll have to read the book if it interests you. But I mean, I say it all the time too. Like I basically coined this, but it's true. Like,
yeah.
the body remembers everything. It knows everything. It's the keeper of the sacred wisdom. It's like all answers lie within. But in that too, you've got to release the trauma, like whatever that is, like physical, mental, emotional, the things that are stored there.
I mean, we can see
use it.
We can see that in something as simple as, 10, 11, 12 years have gone by, and then you walk into like a Walmart and some song plays on the radio that it was a song you loved during a terrible time in your life, and you feel it instantly. It's like it takes you right back to 12 years ago, and it's like, oh my goodness, like that almost like it almost hurt to listen to that song. That's like a perfect example of being like the body keeps the score, right? Your body physically reacted to this thing that you heard. Like it's a really good way of putting it, because something as simple as that is like a testament to that, right?
Yes. And like just that moment, like we have so much with moments like that where we notice ourselves being triggered into like even subtle tensions, right? Or just recognizing, ooh, that song affects me, or like, oh, I don't want to listen to that song because it reminds me of this moment in time.
Sure.
We have these gateways in every day to go find forgiveness and free ourselves. Like through just recognizing how the body is reacting to these things that are revealing themselves to us.
For sure, for sure. And not that I like, this is kind of a segue, but I don't really want to like just switch topics really quickly. But
yeah,
through all of this chat, we've actually said the three words or the three things that I sort of plugged into my own equation on why I think that Lauren and I work so well together, which was kind of the topic of what we were talking about anyway. For all the ladies and gentlemen listening, I'm sure that they would be interested in this. But I think the three things that I know the one thing that makes Lauren and I work so well together is that we meet each other halfway. And when I was a guest on her little module that she did for one of her courses and classes a little while ago, that was the one thing that I kept telling her that drew me to her, is that she would meet me halfway. And that has to do with every aspect of relationship, whether you're communicating, the effort you put into the relationship, how you act in the relationship, the language you use, all of that stuff. You can meet each other halfway, right? Like 50-50 essentially. Now, it's not always going to be like that, obviously. Sometimes relationships are this or this, and they always level out eventually. But someone who actively tries to meet you halfway, that's the number one reason why I think we work so well together. But the three things that I had sort of plugged into my equation as I was getting to know her, and now that I'm with her, it's only bolstered it more, would be, the first one is forgiveness, right? Because there was forgiveness before I met her with everybody else that was in my life. There was self-forgiveness. And now if something were to happen between us, whether it's something that she does or I do, there still has to be forgiveness. There's going to have to be that if you want to continue to have this amazing, thriving relationship. So forgiveness is the one thing. The second thing is expectation, right? And so many people put expectation as their highest thing when they first get into dating, and it just crushes a potential amazing situation that you could have, because you create these thoughts in your head, you create these images, you create these stories, these fairy tales, and when the real life comes and it's nothing like that, you're let down, right? And it's like, it's such a powerful thing to almost live in the state of like a Tibetan monk would, which is you're not attached to the good or the bad, and there's no expectation. It's straight and narrow. And as it happens is how you take it. As it comes to you, that's how you take it. So even now, even though I know Lauren so well and she knows me so well, if I ask her a question on text or in person, I still don't sit down and say to myself, this is what I expect her to say. Because she could say something completely left field or right field, and it could be the most amazing thing she's ever said, and then I fall in love all over again. You know what I mean? So it is, or she could say something and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, So again, but there's no expectation. That way I'm not building up any sort of preconceived ideas about anything, right? And then the third thing, so we got forgiveness because I talk way too much. I'm sorry. I'm like Lauren, I talk a lot. So
We're here for it. We're all here for
that's
it.
what we do. Lauren and I talk a lot to each other and to everybody else. We just keep talking. So forgiveness, expectation, and then willingness, right? There's a lot of willingness in many different aspects of life that I had to be able to do. I had to be willing to meet someone new. I had to be willing to take responsibility for myself, which is something that 90% of human beings still don't do. You got to take responsibility for yourself, but you have to be willing to. You got to be willing to meet someone halfway. I had to be willing to receive Lauren's very personal questions 15 minutes into our phone conversation. So, and even now that we're together, I have to be willing to grow with this person. I have to be willing to accept change from this person, or, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the reason why I think why the universe or God, or however you want to say it, sort of sent Lauren to me, is I was really focused on getting outside of my own head and focused on those three things: forgiveness, expectation, and willingness. And now that I have, quote unquote, received what I was meant to receive, I have to still keep those three things. That triangle still has to be there, that trinity of thoughts, if you will. It has to still be there. Otherwise, I would just regress, right? And I feel like if Lauren, when she goes back and listens to this, because obviously she's going to. So when you get to this part, Lauren, you're probably going to laugh because I'm shouting you out right now. But I think she would say the same thing. Those three components are just, they're massive life changers. That was a really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, it was so perfect. No apologies ever on the Lo and Zo show, Eric. This is a rule. And thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And it's so special. I feel so grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you, to receive your wisdom. And yeah, just again, it's like so special to literally be sitting here with Lo's Quantum Man. And it's really important to me, of course, like Lo's my best friend, business partner. Like, I mean, like I love her to the ends of the earth. So it's just like so special to meet you and actually just like see your heart in these ways and know that you are the Quantum Man. You are such a beautiful fit for Lo. And I'm just so grateful that I got to meet you today and share this with our community. And I want to be respectful of your time, Eric. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be other round two. So if you guys have questions for Eric on the next episode, let us know.
But once we actually meet each other in Spain, then we'll just be doing like a vlog thing, and then everyone can see everything then. So
that's perfect. That's perfect. Vlogs and podcasts coming from Spain next summer. It's going to be so beautiful.
But I did also want to say, just for you, that everything that you just said, all that good energy, that is totally reflected right back to you, because I know you're probably aware, but I don't know how much you really are aware how much Lauren loves you. Like, we're talking, she is just like, her reaction on her face when she opened up her birthday present and she saw your photo that I had printed off with the words and stuff, and you were the first like within 4 minutes of me asking, you had that right away, which meant so much to me too, because I knew it was going to make me happy. So just like her and I as a whole, like, we just like think the world of you. So just so you know.
Well, thank you. I love you guys. I'm so grateful. I can't wait till we're literally in Spain or wherever we meet in the world, and we can just like be in person. Like, yeah, I can't believe like how long it's actually been since I've seen Lo. And like when I think about it, it makes me sad. I mean, we talk every day, but I'm like, I just love her so much. Right. And I just like, again, I'm just so grateful to learn about you today and just like really understand on a deeper and energetic level and like a heart-based level that like, you and Lo have a very beautiful connection, and it's safe, like as the best friend, sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, I feel this, we got our guards up. But with you, it was like, it was different. There was always this kind of energy of like, I trust this for Lo. And now it's like, of course, like my intuition was correct that this is a beautiful match.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a nice compliment. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And well, big thank you to you, Eric. Thank you so much for for coming on the Lo and Zoe show. Again, such a gift for all
Absolutely.
of us.
It was a pleasure. And I'm like super humbled and very, very, very flattered that you wanted me to come on and chat and then put it out there to the public for everybody to hear. So thank you so much. It's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you later,
Bye.
everybody.